I'm going to keep my presentation fairly short. I'm going to talk about the OpenSolaris user groups that are evolving around the world. I often talk to Linux user groups about OpenSolaris, and I kind of get in their face and say, how many of you are Linux developers? And most of them raise their hand. And I say, hold on a second, keep your hands up. And I say, well, if you think you're a Unix or a Linux developer, put your hand down if you're one of the few people that actually hack the kernel and you mess around with the kernel. You take the kernel source code and you work with the kernel source code. And a few of them put their hands down, and the rest of them with their hands up, they think they're Linux developers. It turns out that less than 1% of the Linux users
I realized
today,
in the middle of lunch that I had left the laptop on the podium and my bag with my iPhone and everything sitting there. I'm like, what was I thinking?
Okay. So the point I'm making to these people who call themselves Linux developers are that they really are what I call open source developers. And in the ideal world, I would like to see not Linux user groups or OpenSolaris user groups. I would like to see open source operating system or open source user groups. And the reason for that is because the people that use the tools of open source development, what people used to call the LAMP stack and what I now call just simply the AMP stack, Apache, MySQL, Perl, and those kind of tools, they run fine on other operating systems. And in particular, they run on OpenSolaris, and they run on OpenSolaris with all those extra special tools that you've been hearing about today, ZFS, dtrace, service management facility, and so on. So I try to get people to kind of open their minds about what open source development really means, and I kind of use that as an in to try to get open source or OpenSolaris user groups started in my particular area, and there's quite a large number of them around the world. In fact, there's a map of them on the OpenSolaris website that shows where they're all located, and that's quite a large number. I'll be talking about that in just a moment here. So just as a quick reminder about why we are promoting OpenSolaris as a development environment for open source developers. Typically when customers tell me why they like Linux because it's free, it's open source, runs lots of places, has lots of interesting software and useful software that it runs. Well, the same thing is true for OpenSolaris. It's free, downloadable, shareable. It uses the CDDL license, the Common or Community Development and Distribution License. Runs on lots of different systems, runs high-quality open source software with all the GNU tools, GNOME, Apache, MySQL, Perl, Ruby, all those things. And you can get subscription support for it just like you can with various forms of Linux. So this is what we typically say to the end users of open source software. They can do all their web-based development, open source development on OpenSolaris as well. And we also tell them that, so it runs on lots of different kinds of hardware. It runs on Spark now, on AMD, on Intel, on laptops, desktops, and so on. You can install it with VirtualBox or VMware or other forms of virtualization. The live CD is distributed, or you can download it off of the net. And if you want to find out, whether it will run on your system, just go to the hardware compatibility list on Big Admin. And check to see if your applications or if your laptop or desktop will support it. In general, what I have found is that the only drivers that are not available for modern hardware is the drivers for the modems. And I don't know if anybody still uses modems these days. So typically that's not a problem. And again, we highlight the key features of OpenSolaris to these users. SMF, the service management facility, ZFS file system, which you just heard a lot about, the virtualization that's built in, and that includes the container or zones virtualization, the support for the Xen XVM hypervisor, and the UltraSpark T2-based virtualization in the form of LDOMs. And then, of course, dtrace as well. In fact, I think I just saw Jim Fiore walk in. Where's Jim? Oh, there you are. Okay, there's Mr. D-Trace right over there. If you have any questions about D-Trace, you can ask him. So OpenSolaris user groups, there are over 150 of them now around the world. And the place to go to find where they are, if they are some in your area, is this website here. It's, in fact, the OpenSolaris website was just recently updated. It's now on hub.opensolaris.org. And there's a pointer to the list of OpenSolaris user groups. In this general geographic area, there is a Philadelphia OpenSolaris user group, and to find it, you just go to the this particular website, and you can click on the link and find out who the leader is, get an email of the open source or OpenSolaris user group leader, and hook up with them and find out when their meetings are and where they meet. So Philadelphia is one. University of Delaware is another one. Recently formed in the last year, Baltimore, Washington. User group, and that's more the northern area. That's more, like between Washington and Baltimore. And then one I started a couple of years ago, actually, and it's only met, probably half a dozen times since it was formed 2 years ago, is what we call the Capital Region OpenSolaris user group. And we actually have a new meeting scheduled December 10th, and the announcement of that is on the OpenSolaris Capital Region OpenSolaris user group website that you can find by going to this URL. So what is the OpenSolaris community like? Well, so far, the results of our tracking downloads of OpenSolaris since OpenSolaris first was introduced, as of the middle of this calendar year, over 500,000 downloads of the OpenSolaris bits, starting with the first one that came out a number of years ago. We have almost 250,000 registered community members. Okay, when you want to participate in the community and sign up, doesn't cost anything. Just get a registration so that we can contact you. You can get emails of announcements and so on. So over 250,000 registered community users, developers, system administrators, and other folks that are interested in OpenSolaris. The contributions come from both within Sun and outside of Sun. There's over 12,000 contributed packages in the repos. Those are the repositories of various pieces of software, supported, unsupported, experimental, that you can load into your copy of OpenSolaris. So just go to those repositories and download them into your copy of OpenSolaris. So we have over 12,000 of these components, most of them contributed by Sun, a number of them contributed from outside. There's a lot of project communities, and since we're primarily talking about security, if you go out to the community's website, you'll see there are a variety of specialized communities of interest. There's an academic and research community of interest for those who are actually doing formal research in operating systems and performance, and specifically also in security. So go out there and take a look at some of the communities, and obviously we are encouraging interested parties from industry, from academia, to participate in those communities and to contribute to the advance of OpenSolaris. There's also over 100 engineering projects underway, and actually you heard about some of those today. So if you go to the OpenSolaris projects website, you'll see that there are, like I said, over 100 different engineering projects, some of which are related to just general usage, building of GUI tools for various application areas, to interface with things like printers or laptops, special projects for that. Specifically for the security projects, some of them were mentioned today: flexible mandatory access control, security audit on OpenSolaris, the implementation of the Solaris security toolkit for OpenSolaris, trusted platform, trusted extensions, ZFS crypto, which you just heard about, trusted networking, the crypto framework. All of these are specific projects, and we are looking obviously for community contribution, community development for these projects. We do have active developers contributing to these today, but we certainly are encouraging those who are capable and knowledgeable and interested in extending the work of these communities to extend the usefulness of OpenSolaris. So to wrap up the comments on where to find things about OpenSolaris, there are several books. In fact, I'm going to give away a few of them in just a couple minutes here. So there's a couple books out there right now. There's one that I wrote with Christine Tran, came out in April, called Pro OpenSolaris, published by A-Press. Then there was the 1,000-page OpenSolaris Bible by 3 of the engineers who actually work on OpenSolaris. That was published, I think, in February by Wiley. And the difference between those two is if you are not familiar with the Unix environment, then the OpenSolaris Bible, as big as it is though, the OpenSolaris Bible pretty much talks about all the different things around using a Unix-like environment, in particular using OpenSolaris. With the Pro OpenSolaris book, we made it the assumption that this was going to be a book for those who are already familiar with Linux development. And basically the approach was, okay, you know how to use GNOME, you know how to use the GNU tools, you already know that environment. What's special about OpenSolaris that you don't already know? Okay, so that's a much shorter book, but it focuses on things like ZFS and containers and so on. Jim Morrow has a book that came out in 2006, and it talked about Solaris performance and tools. It had a section in there on performance analysis, and also a very nice section on dtrace, and that included both Solaris and OpenSolaris. So that is an extraordinarily useful book for both Solaris and OpenSolaris users. I highly recommend it if you are interested in learning more about performance. The websites that are out there to get OpenSolaris, and these are the things you want to promote when you talk to people about the community: OpenSolaris.org, OpenSolaris.com, which is where you can actually go out and download copies of the DVDs. Solaris internals, all the discussion about what's going on in the development, also a lot of instructional material about how the kernel is built. And then there's several of blogs out there, and these are just a couple of representative ones. There's one by Jim Grisanzio, who is the chief OpenSolaris evangelist for Sun Microsystems. And then there's the blog, The Observatory, which is Brian Leonard, I'm sorry. You've got Brian and William and Leonard, all these first names. I can never get them all in the right order. Anyway, Brian Leonard, that's his blog, and there's a lot of very interesting utility information and tutorial information on that website. And these are just some representative ones. If you go out and you blog or you Google for OpenSolaris, there's tons and tons of information out there that really is very useful to share. So before I go to the book giveaway, do we have any questions about OpenSolaris in general or OpenSolaris user groups? Nobody wants to ask a question? Yes?
Solaris is the same PSP version.
Yeah.
When changes are made to Solaris fixed files, they're made upstream as well. Sometimes they're made upstream first. IPFilter was always open source.
It may be open source, but there are licensing differences among the different components that you see. Yeah.
Yes, and that's nothing to do with Sun. That is Darren Reed's, and it's no different to what happens with things like Firefox. Is that if you modify it, you can't call it Firefox. If you apply your own patches to it, that was all he wanted to stop people doing. But yeah, it's always been open source.
Okay. All right, we'll have a couple questions for you to give away some of the books here. just to kind of, wrap this thing up. So let me start off with a couple of easy questions. OS 10, my Apple machine, has a time machine to back things up and help me get things back when I lose them. What does OpenSolaris have for that? Well, somebody said time slider. Who said time slider first? Time slider? Okay, so maybe I can get assistance on handing out some of the books here. Okay. All right, so there's one of the questions. All right. Okay, all right. Shout it out when I want to make sure if you're first. Okay. Again, OS 10. From Apple has a lot of interesting things. It's got iTunes. Okay, what does OpenSolaris have that's like iTunes? Huh? Songbird, right. Okay, Songbird. So he gets one. Huh? So he's highly knowledgeable about that. Okay. What's the difference? Now, I said that OpenSolaris was licensed under the CDDL, and Linux is licensed under what? GPL. What's the difference between CDDL and GPL in about 15 words or less?
Evil lawyers.
No. You already answered the question, though. Okay, and actually you got it right. So we're not going to give him 2 books. All right, we'll have to think of another question here. Okay, basically CDDL is a bit stronger in protecting intellectual property and your ability to include patentable information inside your additions to the open source code. How about a couple of harder ones? Let's see. What's the? I flashed a quick picture of the OpenSolaris user groups that are around the world. What's the northernmost OpenSolaris user group? What country is it in? No. No. Any guesses? No, actually, if you go here, northernmost one is in Trondheim, Norway. Okay, so all right, nobody got that one. All right. Okay, how about another user group location question? Some of the user groups in the world are in very dangerous places. What's the user group that's in the most dangerous place in the world? And the answer is not Newark, New Jersey. Afghanistan, there we go. Okay, it's in Kabul, Afghanistan. There's actually a OpenSolaris user group in Kabul, Afghanistan. Okay, so there's those location questions. All right. All right, one final question. If you want to know if your laptop or your desktop will run OpenSolaris, what tool do you use to find that out? Yeah.
Big admin's hardware compatibility list.
It's on the hardware compatibility list. There's a Java tool that's on there. Okay, so that's okay. One more. All right, one more question, and I'm out of questions. How about Brian? Why don't you ask a question that you think might be interesting for the group?
What's the probably most significant difference between Solaris 10 and OpenSolaris?
Good question.
I've already answered.
He's already answered.
I'm not. I heard it. Well, I did.
And
what is IPS?
What's the other word for the thing?
Okay. Okay, IPS is the image packaging system that you use to download new components from your online repositories to update your copies of OpenSolaris. All right, so that's it for OpenSolaris user groups. Please join one, form one, contribute to them, tell your friends about them, tell your Linux friends about them, because they're not really Linux friends, they're open source friends. and you know, grow the group and do more of this stuff that we've heard about today. Thank you very much.